Let's see if I can get something to hold us up. I'm just gonna watch the Downtown Austin Alliance over here. They're what he's doing. Wants to get up on that thing. Everybody here okay? So let's see, where are we at? Day 5. Today's day 5 of this trial against these cops. Well, it's only against one cop. So they spent some. They're just definitely trying to see that he was reasonable and he shot. It's reasonable for a cop to shoot into a car full of a family. That's what the APD is saying. It's reasonable. All you gotta do is have a perception of fear, and then you can go ahead and kill people in a car full of family. Oh, I'm going back here. Going back. Go through all these pages with you. Totality of circumstances is a big one. These are all just terms. It's just terms they use. This is just today's notes. I'm still going back. There's got Chetus. Yeah, that's stupid. Alright, day 5. I got here, and they were talking about, let's see, I noticed that Dexter Guilford, one of the prosecutors with the Travis County DA's office, was in there watching in the gallery, which is interesting since they didn't press charges. Why are they watching this trial? Are they trying to see if they screwed up? I mean, that's super interesting. I've already memed him with blood on his hands. The DA has blood on their hands. Guilford, I believe, was one of the prosecutors prosecuting Christopher Taylor that killed Mike Ramos, and they screwed that up. They let the jury fall asleep the whole time. Almost the whole time, so like, yeah, it's no good. There goes somebody. Anyways, Austin Sanders was there. Right in, I got in there before Austin Sanders with the Austin Statesman paper. He used to be with the Austin Chronicle, which is like a free rag. Statesman charges. Downtown Austin Alliance is yelling at some people. Yeah, it's hard to get any work done here because Downtown Austin Alliance is always messing with people, including me. Anyhow, so we're at Republic Square Park. There was a protest earlier, like I said, but had nothing to do with this. So plaintiff's witness, Sylvia Hartman, came in. She was the Office of Police Oversight, former acting director. I talked to her 2 or 3 times. She covered for bad cops. She was incompetent. She basically got ran out of there because she wasn't publishing the information that was required under the Office of Police Oversight's directives, I mean. So seeing all these bad lawyers over here coming out. I think these are the lawyers for the cops. There's a whole bunch of them. Anyways, she's a retired attorney. She says she's doing part-time work also now. She was the Office of Police Oversight on a temporary basis. Then Farrah Muscadin, the founding director of the Office of Police Oversight, who I was critical of, who also lied to me about the same things. She had a couple maternity leaves, then she had a family medical leave, and eventually they just made Sylvia Hartman, the director of the Office of Police Oversight, which we'll call OPO. She priorly worked for the Citizens Review Panel, and she spent 1 year and 3 or 4 months at working with the CPR. She says the Office of Police Oversight is oversees the police. They're oversight of the police department, which is a lie. They don't do anything, but they're just a proxy to keep us from getting justice. They review police policy. They do reviews and recommendations. She says they do a lot. The OPO is paid by the city and the citizens. The CPRC is a voluntary group of citizens that also gives recommendations. So one gets paid, one doesn't get paid. And they do the similar work. Anyhow, a lot of pages. Like when shots were fired by the police, things like that, they investigate the investigation, and they also sit in on interviews and they propose questions, but they didn't have investigative powers back then, she said. She reviewed the case in 2021, but not in 2021. She reviewed it later, made recommendations to discipline Giganticus to Chief Chacon on 1/23/23, so about a year after the shooting. About 2 years after the shooting, she provided a private case briefing with the OPO and CPRC. It was 2 days that they had to put their brief together to give to the grand jury, I think. So they didn't have they just briefly gave a general response. Chief has 180 days to present to the grand jury, and does not involve the CPRC. Said, I don't think the grand jury looks at the case until very late. IA would not whatever. They recommended Officer Giganticus be fired. She said that means termination. Well, she said it's actually indefinite suspension. She said that means termination. And Lizzardo get guidance and counseling, etc., the policy and training, and all of that was ignored by Chief Chacon because there's no accountability in Austin, like I've been saying. Officer Giganticus was involved in an off-duty road rage incident. She said involved in a shooting of a man and a passenger. He did not identify as a police officer. These are the reasons so that they made the decision. Did not identify as a police officer. Was in some kind of discussion between some kind of disturbance discussion between the people in the cars. The two cars, and there's no video or evidence of how the car was driving. Didn't do anything to de-escalate. That's another item. Officer Giganticus didn't do anything to de-escalate the situation. Another item. Said had a gun pointed on him. He pulls his gun and empties the magazine. Would have had to look past the passenger to see Alex. So he didn't see this passenger that was in front of between them. Was her right to not speak to internal affairs? So she didn't speak to internal affairs originally. And Alex was dead, so they just went off what Giganticus and Lizzardo said. She called 911. He called 911. Giganticus called 911 and did not inform them that he had shot Gonzalez. Officer Giganticus followed and had his gun out. He did ID as a police officer later and gave commands to Alex. Alex is bloody and staggering, and so he asked, the lawyer asked the witness if Alex was bleeding and staggering. He said yes. He said, and so the Guterres is saying, put the gun down, but it's clear that he didn't have a gun. That's true. Recklessly fired into the car. He didn't see anyone else in the car. He was reckless to empty his gun with other people in the car and in a neighborhood. And Guterres didn't talk to Internal Affairs because Internal Affairs didn't call him. Inconsistencies in Guterres' statements. Guterres gave no vocal communication between them. I think that's between OPO and Guterres. And the civilian witness said that, Guterres said he had no verbal conversation between him and Alexander Gonzalez, but there's a civilian witness that said that there was discussion. He overheard two men discussing and yelling stuff. So Guterres said there was no discussion. So Guterres is lying. Internal Affairs investigates scope with a 204 application of deadly force. That's section 204 of their policy. Asked Chief Chacon to consider other factors. General Order 200.2.1 in the APD policy is which they call general orders. The assessment factors for de-escalation. Assessing factors and de-escalation. Section 364 is off-duty officer actions. Chacon memo. He said no discipline. And did you speak to him about his decision? They asked her, and she said they talk on a regular basis, but she doesn't recall if she told him that she would normally tell him before she submitted a recommendation, and then afterwards. There goes the attorneys for the bunch of attorneys in a big old rideshare Mercedes transit van thing. Anyways, so these are the inconsistencies and stuff. And she said she probably talked to him before and after, and before a press conference, and she didn't know the reasons given for not firing him and following the recommendations. And she said she didn't recall specifically. So they bring her in to testify, and she can't remember. I don't know if you remember Ronald Reagan saying that he couldn't remember selling guns to through Oliver North, and he hung out Oliver North, and Oliver North had to go to jail and all that. Comes downtown Austin Alliance. In general, it was a complicated case. Do you recall feeling disappointed? Whatever. Disappointed, and she said yes, somewhat disappointed. So she was somewhat disappointed that they kept a bad cop that had murdered people on the force. Does that sound like people that are holding the police accountable? I don't think so. Does that sound like oversight? I don't think so. I mean, you can overlook. It should be the police overlook, not the police oversight. Think about that for a minute. OPO should be the Office of Police Overlook. Release objectionable public reports on internal affairs. So did OPO release objective public reports on the IA investigation? And no. She said they do an annual report. That's it. She can't remember which one. No public reporting from OPO on this. So this is Albert Lopez is the defense attorney for Guterres. He's talking now to her. He's cross-examining. It's called a cross. Doesn't know the purpose of this trial in court. She said she doesn't know the purpose of this trial in court. She said, talking about the reasonableness of Officer Guterres, the witness says, I'm here because I was subpoenaed to be here. I'm here. So he's trying to tell her, he's trying to say she's there for the plaintiff, not just to be honest. And she says, I'm just here because y'all subpoenaed me, I'm here to answer questions. That's it. I didn't know she didn't have statements of Ariano at the time, that she made a decision. Her recollection is that he did not have time. There's testimony of the passenger, discussion overheard by witnesses. So he had to restate. There was an objection. He had to restate. Knew there was a witness of the disagreement. But then Lopez was trying to say, well, it could have been Alex and his girlfriend that they overheard. And she said her recollection is it was two men that were arguing from the witness. But there's no video of this, so there's no. Gutierrez didn't have a camera running, didn't have a body cam. I have cameras running all the time. I have cameras on my car running all the time. A lot of Uber drivers do. But these cops, they don't want cameras because they don't want people knowing that they're really dirty, because they're doing a lot in their private vehicles. They're doing a lot on the job, but they're doing a lot more crimes under color of law. They're racketeering, they're running drugs, they're raping people, they're doing whatever they do as dirty cops, and they don't want to have a camera, so that's why we don't have footage. Gutierrez denied that he ever had a discussion. Didn't have evidence to evaluate, only had evidence to evaluate his credibility. Nevertheless, I can't even read that. Found, yeah. So whatever. Okay, Officer Gutierrez states that he has a gun pointed at him. But then I put a note here that it needs to be proportionate. So if nobody fired a gun, if there wasn't really a gun, him shooting was disproportionate. If someone has a knife and he has a gun and they kills them, it's also disproportionate. But the police don't always see it that way. But that's the law. For the rest of us, it has to be proportionate use of force. Anyways, but apparently cops are above the law. Officer Gutierrez states that he saw a gun pointed at him, didn't think there was anyone present. Did you consider his self-defense? He asked her. That's what Lopez asked Sylvia Hartman of the OPO. He said, yes, I did consider self-defense. Was off-duty important? She said yes. When he fired his weapon, was he working in a law enforcement capacity? He was viewed as a civilian at that time, is what she said. Okay. So Laird gets up there, Gray Laird gets up there and does a cross examination. So she gets crossed twice because there's two sets of lawyers for the cops and only one set of lawyers for the family. So it's like there's two cross examinations every time. It's not fair the way they've got it set up, by the way. So the purpose of, Laird says, the purpose of the OPO is to make APD, is to monitor APD etc. She says, yes, sir. The Citizens Review Panel on, I think it's CRP, not the CPR, but anyway, CRP on that fight, that is correct. On that, the CRP on that right, that is correct. So you have access to internal affairs investigation while it's going on, yes and no. Not at all times. We can sit in on an interview, suggest a question, ask a question you ask questions of Gutierrez, and she said maybe depends on the rules, when the rules change, because at one point they couldn't. The police have made it harder and harder and harder to hold themselves accountable. It's basically the police union that's fighting to hold make police bad. So they're not doing the police a favor, and it's a union. It's supposed to be helping them, but it's not a labor union. It's more of a racketeering operation. Did she have a good working relationship with Chief Chacon? Yes. Spoke to him regularly? Yes. Spoke to him possibly about about this prior to them being submitted. He didn't completely give, he didn't give a complete, I don't know, I can't read that. Let's see. He just disagreed, and then he didn't give reasons. And then in the past he agreed with you on other recommendations. She said yes. So they're trying to prove that the police hold themselves accountable. That's what they're trying. They're going to argue that this isn't, it's not the IA is not a scam, but the Department of Justice and the city's own audit says that the internal affairs is broken, not working properly. So and they haven't done anything to change anything since the DOJ and all them said so. You didn't come to question Chacon's integrity in those, in other cases. You didn't question Chacon's integrity in this or other cases. Yes. Trying to make the right decision. The conclusions. The complexity of this investigation, of this incident, was important. The factors. Officer Gutierrez was engaged in a road rage incident. That's true. It takes two to tangle, she said. Like, there had to be two people involved. So he was trying to say you can't have a road rage incident by yourself. Yes, you can. The cop could be on steroids or other stimulants, and he could be having some PTSD issues, or he could just be an asshole, and he could get mad at somebody and have a road rage incident without them, and he could totally attack them. And so yeah, that was not handled very well by Sylvia Hartman, because she's not smart enough to know how to answer these questions. That's what I'm saying, is they don't put the smartest people in these positions. They're not the smartest cops. They're not the smartest people in government, and they're just so corrupt. And even their ignorance adds to the corruption and the cover-up. Let's see. Failed to recognize there's anyone else in the car. I got a note here, I can't read it. He had a gun in his face. He couldn't see. No one, because it's too difficult. She said, I don't agree with that statement. He's a trained police officer, yes, in that instance, but he could have done other things to de-escalate. With the entirety of the situation, he could have done other things. So she's saying in that instant, like the lawyer's saying in an instant, he has no other choice but to shoot. And she's saying, well, he had other opportunities in the whole, not just that instant the whole time, but he was trying to narrow him down. Lopez was trying to narrow it down to just that instant. These guys are useless. It's 108 degrees out here and they're blowing leaves. The entire situation, it's a continuum. When you isolate it like that in a split-second decision, there's no time to de-escalate. I won't go that far. Occupants of the car, there was occupants of the car. We look at the report. Witnesses said 2 men were talking. It could be Alex and Jessica, is what Lopez said. And because he was trying to twist the truth. The lawyer's trying to twist the truth. But whenever it stands, oh yeah, he gives her a document. It has a cover photo she doesn't recognize because it's not her published document. It's just how they put it together. It was published by the city apparently. Anyway, so the whole lot of changes that happened. Yeah. bunch of stuff. APD has the sole decision about the outcome, outcome of a case. True. Office of Police Oversight has no control on output. True. Office of Police Oversight can make recommendations on discipline on some cases, she said. Not all. Okay. Can't read this. Summary of complaints over 3 years received. In 2014, LPO received 33 cases. External complaints, so that's coming from citizens, and they were investigated. 23 sustained policy violations. 2020, there was 96 complaints and 52 policy violations. In 2021, it was similar. APD was investigating complaints. Yes, some complaints, she said. So OPO knows deeply about how much IA and the police don't investigate, but I don't know. They're limited on what they can say, I think. APD was, page 11, APD had 86 officer complaints in 2021. 67 were subject of internal complaints. Those are initiated by APD itself or some other agent within the city. APD investigated officer misconduct, yes. Response to resistance means use of force. She wasn't sure about that. She didn't know about that. Then a female attorney from the plaintiff's side came on. OPO is not an independent investigation. They just use AI files and read into the IA file and witnesses. She says true. The statements, etc. True. Citizens Review Panel had separate the separate recommendations, the different groups between OPO and the CRP. All right, we know that. Pass the witness, then dismiss the witness. Then plaintiff brings in Officer Brian Edward Nemo, Nemmo. He's sworn in. Another plaintiff's attorney steps up to question this guy, this witness. Graduated APD 2018, went to the academy with Serrato. So these guys know each other. Nemo and Serrato went to the same police academy together. They were partners in separate police cars. And so they, Nemo was working on a thing. He got a CAD pop up. Then he got a radio call. Then it got put up to Hot Shot and promoted to Hot Shot. And then all these cops came with their guns ready. We were pretty close to the scene already. I was previously working on a report on another previous incident. His dash cam video shows a screenshot of Serrato. He didn't recognize Gutierrez as a police officer, but he knew that there was an officer on scene, and he inferred that that was this guy, even though they didn't exchange then they exchanged words. No idea about passenger or baby at this time, who shot who. Gutierrez hasn't told you or relayed info to you about that. Serrato is behind him for a period behind him. Now on the left-hand side of the Officer Gutierrez car is where he's standing, and you are focused on Alex to the left of the other car. The left of Gutierrez's car, and you say hands up, manos alto in Spanish, in case there's a language gap. At first you didn't notice that he was impaired. Later you see blood on his face and on the car. He said yes. Yeah, basically So when he said you realized he could have an injury and might not be able to, and he was moving slow and everything, he said, I do, but he could be playing coy or faking it to get our guard down, is what he said. So after they shot him, they said he's faking. Okay, that's really great. So they come up with these stories. You see how you're faking when they shoot you in the head. You're just faking. So we're just going to keep shooting you. You're just being coy. Being coy? Being coy. I don't think that's the word. But anyways, he puts the hand inside the vehicle, you don't shoot. He's moving slowly is one reason. He made the right decision at that moment to not shoot, because now we're going for reasonable. So here's Officer Nemo that didn't shoot. They had some of the same information and decided it was best not to shoot. So that's going to be the reasonable control right there. The totality of circumstances is how they operate, not just off one thing. He had blood on his face and had slow movements. Totality of circumstances, not one piece of info to process and make decisions about. Don't reach in. Then Serrato shoots. Alex dies right then. I don't know what is in his head, and his totality of circumstances for the other cop. Other people and witnesses. Jessica found in but Jessica and baby, you didn't know about until after the shooting that there was a baby in the car? And he said, no, I didn't know. As we approached the car, that's when we saw. If I knew there was a baby was in the car, that it would be a big change in the situation and decision. And he's like, yeah, if I'd had that info. Do you wish that Officer Giganticus would have told you if he knew there was a baby? He said, no, there wasn't enough time, but yes. He tries to talk his way out of it. When you approached the roast, he gave you information, correct? True. It was quick. There wasn't enough time. And then he finally says yes. He finally has to get it restated to say yes. He's trying to avoid it, just saying that there wasn't enough time to give me all the information. That's why I didn't know. But yeah, it's an officer's obligation to give complete and thorough information so officers can make the proper decisions, and that's part of the totality of circumstances. The totality of circumstances that Gutierrez gave was the ones that would support them killing Alex Gonzalez, who he'd already shot to cover up for his shooting, so that they could continue to cover that up. That's what that was about, and kill the person who was a witness. Baby is obviously pertinent information after situation. You are interviewed by Detective Holmstrom at the Internal Affairs, and he said, yeah, that was 6 hours after the incident. So and he gives the affidavit of this to the court of the event. Something about an affidavit. All right. He personally typed up the affidavit, he said, yes. And I don't believe that. So SIU types up these investigations. We learned from the Chris Taylor thing. I don't think they personally typed them up. They talk to SIU. SIU types up and lies and changes stuff, and then they sign it so that the SIU can help with the cover-up. That's what that's about, and that's what they're trying to expose, I think. I don't think they've gone far enough into exposing SIU and how SIU has been covering up these murders. He said whenever the AG said when the Attorney General, no, Alex Gonzalez, I'm sorry, AG, something about into the car, he could have, in his affidavit he said he could have reached for anything. When he reached into his car, he could have reached for anything. And then SIU said anything's a pretty broad term. It's a female SIU officer. He said on his original draft, so they had him change it. And at this time, Gutierrez in the courtroom, he's sitting back and he's staring at the witness to intimidate this SIU sergeant. So he was staring at him to try to tell him not to testify anymore on this, to change to lie. So that's interesting too. I noted that. He changed his statements to gun and clarified anything meant a gun, edited his statement that to say he reached for his gun. You have he said, do you have, the next question is, Lopez, do you have to rack your weapon? He said, no, I keep one in the chamber. APD does that. APD does not rack when ready to fire. And then he mentioned something about the baby crying. Did you hear the baby crying? He said no. Then the plaintiff calls in their next witness, Steve McCormick. Sergeant McCormick. Oh, this is a different SIU. There was two SIUs, I think. Anyway, so SIU. Sergeant was Reginald Parker. Reggie Parker. Lieutenant was Jeremy Benoit. Benoit. And they arrived at the scene. Parker made him lead detective at the scene. Made McCormick a lead detective at the scene, and in charge of sealing the crime scene. His responsibility, yes, sir. Documentation of evidence, not just me, others also. Collection of evidence is so yeah. So basically, he's trying to backtrack on his being the ultimate responsibility, the lead detective. He's saying other people could have fucked up, but you're responsible. He's not trying. These cops don't want to take any responsibility. He didn't have his body-worn camera on when he investigated the scene, and then 10 days later when he investigated the car and found the gun, supposedly, he didn't have his body cam on, but he did 20 or more. There's 20 or more body-worn body cam videos from during his interviews with people. But he just didn't want to do it when he was actually with the evidence. Apparently, he hides that. I don't know why he has that habit, but he needs to stop it. Preliminary inspection with his own eyes at scene. He used a flashlight to look in the vehicles. He didn't see the loose bullet in Gutierrez's car. Yeah, he tried to lie. That's all I remember. Then they bring up McCormick's testimony, and from the deposition that he did, his video testimony, and you know, it's different. They did a grand jury thing. They brought in this lady Acosta. She was also an investigator. She had no experience, and here's what's interesting about her. And she said she was talking about, she was called to the scene. She was doing the ballistic forensics and all that. She's a firearms expert, and she has to figure out what the loadouts are, where all the guns are, and all that. Then they start talking about how they got to account for every shot. She talked to Officer Gutierrez, where he said he kept his gun. She said it was on the driver's door pocket, and the second mag in the center console. There's 7 rounds of mag, 1 in the chamber, correct. Additional bullet found during vehicle processing at Southside. I wonder if that's Southside. I wonder if that's where that is. I feel like that's down there. Oh, what's it called? It's the South Substation, I think, for APD. Or it could be Southside Tone, but I don't think so. Doing Loadout is prior to 10 days later. She took photos. First photos of her photo sheet with her AP number and her name on it. Her photo sheet, case number. Yeah, talking about the trajectories and the trajectory sticks that they put to show. There's pink trajectory sticks and yellow trajectory rods, I mean, depending on the cluster, so, and the shooting cluster. So some are going in a different direction, so they get a different color. And they tracked all the bullets to the car. Anyways, get back into here. Going forward. So he was asking about, he asked about the grand jury information. They asked about what happened to your job. And she said she made a report to SIU. I don't know, it looks like Gilbert, somebody, her supervisor, misrepresented her training record and said she'd received more training than she had actually had, and she said it took my job away from me. This is a police officer, Acosta. She was a sergeant with SIU, I believe. But she said, took my job away from me. Evidence. She was to put her in the evidence warehouse, which in a menial position. She was taken away from all her groups, which she felt camaraderie with. Removing. She said removing. Basically, removing an agent is unprecedented. They're not supposed to move people out of it when they're processing evidence. They ruined my career. I suffered retaliation in all sorts of ways from APD. She left and became a school teacher. They dragged us out and took away my career that I loved. There was no communication for her with her group. Not part of the unit or group anymore. Unit was very cliquey. Her supervisor married another member of the group, and then there was a young woman they brought in who was very outgoing, and she would party with them, and she would go out to lunch and all that. But Acosta was in her 30s, and a mom and family, and she felt like she was being punished out of retaliation. She reported it to HR, APD HR, and to the chain of command. One was Perez, now a convicted felon. He's buddies with the supervisor, and there was an objection to relevance, but she said all this on her own. So she's now a high school science teacher. And now they passed it to Lopez, and he says the first bullet that, he starts talking about the first bullet that shattered the window glass. He spends a lot of time on that. Alright, anyways. When she leaves, she's smiling at everybody, because she's weird. Witness, sworn testimony, recorded deposition. So they get Assistant Chief Eric Fitzgerald, and he basically just keeps saying the same thing that, he just keeps trying to deny everything, saying that the information that they gave the city, the people of the city of Austin, wasn't detailed, because press reports aren't supposed to be detailed. They're not supposed to tell the people what's going on, and he says that's transparency. That's good transparency when you hide that stuff. He said that was good. So that was interesting how these assistant chiefs are also lying all the way up the chain. So you don't really have to look so much at the little guy at the bottom. You really need to look at the people up the chain of command, because if they're perjuring themselves on the stand, if they're committing felonies, if they're lying, don't worry about the little guy. Worry about the guy at the top that taught them. You got to get rid of the entire chain of command of APD. You got to get rid of all of them. So that's some of my notes from today. I know I can't read my handwriting. Shit. Oh, sorry about that. There's some of my notes from the day. I know y'all can't read my handwriting. I was talking about how you need to fire the chain of command. You need to fire the people at the top that are doing the lies. The people at the bottom are not your target, unfortunately. You're gonna have to fire a lot of people, but if you keep putting people below bad cops, you're gonna end up with bad cops. I'm looking at my chat. Can you send money? Yeah, you can send money. Look at the video notes at the bottom. There's ways to support my work. You can also share my work or share these videos. You can subscribe. You can. I'd be happy if you went out there and filmed police and did this accountability work, because we need more people out here. There's a lot of corruption, and there's not enough people that are brave or smart or willing enough, gumption enough to do this work. So y'all get out there. Let's do this work. Yeah. So we're gonna leave for today. It's they let out a little early in court. They got in at 11, and they let out at like, what time is it? What time is it? I'm gonna say they let out at 3. Now they let out at 4. We've been out about 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't know what's going on over here. They're doing something. So yeah, they'll be back at 8:30 in the morning on Monday. I will not be here for next week's coverage unless something drastic happens. I'm supposed to be busy with other stuff. So y'all come and film. Like, that would be some way you could support me. It's just, if you're in Austin, come down here at 8:30 in the morning, dress nice, don't bring any weapons, don't do anything stupid, just sit and watch and take notes, and then you do an update. I'm passing the baton, y'all. This is a relay. All right, y'all. Y'all take care. Respect.